This is the OnePlus Nord 2, the flagship dream, and I'm going to tell you just why that is. Hey, what's going on, guys and girls? Prashil here with my review of the OnePlus Nord 2 5G. And after a month of using this device, I have concluded that this is the phone of the people. So why is that? Well, using this device for about a month, I've come to realize that you get near top-tier specs for half the price of an actual flagship. And while not fully high-end, day-to-day usage with this device has been a very pleasant experience. Alright, so let's get into it. Alright, in terms of design, you have Gorilla Glass on the front and the back with a matte finish on the back panel, which I really like. The color I chose was the Grey Sierra option, which I'm really happy with. The blue variant looked nice, but I preferred the matte finish, which also reduces the effect of fingerprints. You also have plastic bezels, which I believe are coated with a metallic substance to give it the appearance of metal, which is kind of sneaky if you ask me. Now, a notable difference between the 2 and 1 lies within the camera system, front and back. You have a nice looking camera system which doesn't protrude too much out of the phone, and at the front a single hole punch cutout which feels less intrusive than the previous model. Overall, the design is sleek and quite representative of a modern smartphone. In other words, it's kind of boring, but they did play it safe and it kind of works. Alright, so going on to internal specs, you get the MediaTek 1200 6nm chipset, which boasts an octa-core processor, 128GB of internal storage on this model, which is non-expandable, and 6GB of RAM with a Mali G77 MC9 GPU. Now, segueing into performance, all these specs mentioned before translates to a great experience with this device on a day-to-day basis. In fact, the Nord 2 blazed through apps, and I never found it lacking in the power department. Navigating through the UI was a very smooth experience, and gaming performance was excellent, with the phone barely getting hot. The heat management, in my opinion, was very good. Now, the Nord 2 felt very fluid, and I never once experienced any stutters or lag. Now, my experience was also aided by the 90Hz refresh rate, which made the Nord 2 feel even quicker as the animations were silk smooth. All in all, good job, OnePlus. Alright, let's get onto the screen. With the Nord 2, you get a stunning 6.43-inch AMOLED display with a 90Hz refresh rate, protected by Gorilla Glass 5. Now, the Nord 2 does support HDR10, and all this results in a screen which is vibrant and pushes the pixels to provide nice punchy colors with decent contrast and nice viewing angles with no off-axis distortion that I experienced. Now, the Nord 2 has a triple camera system. You have a main 50-megapixel shooter with f1.9 aperture, which acts as a wide lens, and an 8-megapixel f2.3 aperture ultra-wide at 119 degrees, and a 2-megapixel f2.4 monochrome lens, which in my opinion is an interesting choice. Now, while the camera system lacks autofocus, night mode is available, and the results are pretty decent. The highlight was the higher color saturation over the previous generation, but funnily enough, the enabling of HDR was detrimental to the overall image as it left photos feeling overprocessed, in my opinion. So my tip would be to toggle it on and off and see which you prefer. Overall, image quality was superb. Photos had a good contrast combined with accurate colors and high dynamic range to give a great image. Night mode is pretty decent as well, as the software works well to reduce noise in low light conditions. I honestly feel like I may have to make a whole other separate video on the camera system itself, just because the OnePlus Nord 2 has so many in-depth camera features, especially in advanced mode. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that. But overall, the camera system, I'd say, is a solid B+. So when it comes to innovation, I will say this, with a mid-range device, you're not exactly going to see them push any boundaries in any way. But I will say that the textured alert slider is great for switching profiles on the fly. The 90Hz refresh rate amps up the fluidity of the animations, making for smooth transition between apps. The OS is really clean, and it's basically just OnePlus's UI slapped over stock Android, sprinkled in with a little bit of OnePlus's features, which honestly, I've got no complaints there. Now, the 65-watt charging of this device is just simply brilliant. I cannot stress this enough. The phone can get up to 70% in half an hour, which is absolutely crazy. Plus, the battery life is phenomenal. With about moderate use, this phone can last up to 2 days, which is nuts in today's day and age, especially since I'm using my iPhone 12 Pro, and that thing I can kill in a day. Now, all of these things really help elevate this above the competition. But while it is half the price of a flagship at about 500 USD, it's not without its shortcomings. Now, earlier I stated that this device is a flagship dream because it simply does a great job at creating the illusion that you're using a flagship device. But as a power user, you tend to notice a few things, like the screen isn't as sharp as a flagship Samsung, or the camera system isn't as complete and versatile as an iPhone Pro Max's camera system. The lack of official water resistance, as well as the fact that being a mid-range device, this actually lacks a headphone jack, which a lot of other devices still maintain. But in talking of reality, in reality, most people won't nitpick at a level I do. I mean, it is my job after all. And what we're left with then is a phone for the people, a phone for the masses, the majority of which don't really care about high-end specs and are not willing to pay an extra $500 USD to go for specs and software and camera systems and screens that they'll just forget about in a month. Now, in terms of 5G, I do appreciate that you have 5G level connectivity, but again, at this point in time in my country, New Zealand, it's still a little bit of a gimmick as you can't always get service everywhere, and so it automatically defaults to 4G. So there you have it then. The Nord 2 offers near flagship-like experiences for half the price. And it's for those who really don't care about bleeding-edge technology. But it is important to note that it does make some flagship-level compromises, like the headphone jack. And there you have it. That has been my review of the Nord 2 5G. This is my cue to sign off. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.